I have bad news for you if you've been dreaming about a 911 Carrera. Values are stuck and aren't coming down anymore. Is this the new normal, or will prices soon continue their downward trajectory?
Welcome to the quarterly data-driven market update for the 911.
In this update, you'll get to know everything about the sticky values that we saw during last year and what this means for the upcoming year.
Now, I guess that not everyone's up to date on the 911 market, so we'll start by assessing the latest price developments for each generation.
If we start with the two-wheel driven base and S models of the 992 generation, we can see something remarkable. In line with the general market, values decreased after the pandemic price stop. But, contrary to competitors, they stabilized during 2023. Compared to last year, base models lost 0.8% and S's 3.2%. These rates amount to roughly $900 and $4,000. Needless to say, these are extremely low numbers for a car that is a few years old. If we zoom into the base market, we can see that the statistics for the 2023 and 2024 cars have been volatile due to the low market supply and the addition of new stock. Price developments for 2022, 2021 and 2020 cars though are reliable as supply is high enough. These developments confirm what we saw earlier. Depreciation is extremely low or non-existent. Most model years lost less than 1%. This is a unique development that, as we'll see later in this video, doesn't occur in competitor markets.
Now, what makes this even more special is that we can see it for almost all generations.
If we focus on the 991.2 market, we can see namely similar stable price trends after the 2022 correction. GTSs are up by 1.3%, S's by 3%, and base models are down by 3.8%. None of these changes, however, are statistically confirmed. This means that they could be the result of chance. In practical terms, this means that you can assume that prices didn't change a lot during last year. That's also what we can observe from the confidence intervals. Switching to the 991.1, the story remains unaltered. The correction after the pandemic price stop is slightly smaller, but the flattening is the same. Base models are up by 3.1%, S's by 2.3%, and GTSs are down by 2.5%. The latter number carries a bit more uncertainty. The market for the .1 GTSs is small, and this increases the confidence interval for the trend. Note by the way that, again, none of these changes are statistically confirmed, meaning that they all could be the result of chance.
Now, the 997s and 996s are of course a significant step down in price point compared to the 991s and 992s, but also these generations didn't depreciate any further.
Starting with the 997, we can see even smaller drops from the pandemic price stop, and yet again, stable trends. .1 base models are down by 3.4% and S's by 1.7%. Small changes that aren't statistically confirmed. They are, however, the most reliable ones of this graph. The .2 market shrunk tremendously, and this of course means that the uncertainty in the pricing increases. .2 base models are down by 6.7%, GTSs are up by 8.3%, and S's are down by 0.8%. Just as in the .1 market, none of these changes are statistically confirmed, so I recommend to use the .1 market or the average as a proxy. Continuing with the 996 market, we can see that base and S prices didn't really decrease that much from the pandemic price stop. Prices have been hovering around the same level since 2022. Note by the way that the green line shows the prices for the 4S's, but that this isn't shown because I didn't want to break down the base models by drivetrain configuration. Looking at the price changes during last year, we can see that 4S's are up by 1.3%. That .2 base models are up by 2.7% and .1 base models are down by 7.7%. But just as for most of the other price changes that we saw, these aren't statistically confirmed. Looking at the confidence intervals, we can see why. They're namely fairly stable. Only the one for the 996 drifted down slightly.
Let's put now everything together that we saw so far.
This reveals that the average decline was only 0.5%. There are some outliers on the negative and positive side, but as we discussed in the previous part of the video, these changes could be the result of chance. Most models sit between -4 and +3%. and we can see that it isn't really model dependent. Both 996s and 991s fall on the positive side. But also pay attention to the 992s. These cars are only a few years old, but lost hardly anything.
Now in isolation these numbers are a little bit meaningless. Maybe the complete market is showing extraordinary strength. Could that be an explanation?
Over here we have the US year-over-year price changes for almost all cars that feature on my channel. On the horizontal axis, we have the price changes compared to last year in percentages, and on the vertical axis, we have the number of cars to which this change applies. The average decrease during last year was 7.1%, and most cars lost between 12 and 2%. It's evident that the 911 Carrera market outperformed the rest. With an average loss of 0.5%, it falls in the top 25% of cars that lost the least. Moreover, if I add the average per generation in here, we can see that this goes for all generations. 992s lost the most, followed by the 996s, 997s and 991s. The differences though are so small that I wouldn't put too much emphasis on them.
Now based on everything that we saw, I think it's fair to conclude that the situation in the 911 Carrera market is unique. Depreciation was basically non-existent during last year, and this deviates from the rest of the market.
But does this mean that this is the new normal, or can we expect prices to decrease in the upcoming year, or perhaps even increase?
This is perhaps the question that I get asked most often. But to answer this, we really need an evidence-based model of car prices, something that I don't have.
However, we can speculate what might happen by looking at the underlying trends in the data. Inventory data namely has some predictive power for the prices. Over here we can see the development in the carried over inventory. That is, the percentage of cars that aren't sold within 3 months. Typically, when this value increases, cars are selling slower, something that puts downward pressure on prices. When it decreases, cars are selling quicker, typically leading to an increase in price strength. Looking at the trend per generation, we can see that cars sold slower when prices decreased after the pandemic price stop, but that the trend reversed in the beginning of 2022. During 2023, the trend was decreasing for all generations, indicating that cars were selling quicker and quicker. This matches with the flattening price trends. But now then, looking at the most recent developments, we can see that for the first time since the beginning of 2023, the trends increased again. This of course doesn't mean that prices will come crashing down. It's simply one indicator that points towards a slightly softening market.
Sellers, however, are still confident in the market, perhaps overly confident.
If we look at the price change for cars that aren't sold within 3 months, we can see a typical seasonal pattern. During the winter, unsold inventory is discounted more than during the summer. Now if we look at the last price changes for unsold cars, we can see that the rates are less negative compared to May 2023. So this means that cars started to sell a bit slower, but that sellers didn't start yet to discount them more in order to sell them. They're confident that they will sell them by reducing the price by 0 to 2%.
Let's wrap up and conclude.
911 Carrera values were mostly stable during last year. On average, they decreased by 0.5%, and this is significantly less than the market average. If you're a regular viewer, this doesn't come as a surprise. In August of last year, I already reported on stabilizing price trends, and during the rest of the year, the confidence in this message increased.
Irrespective if you're an owner or a buyer, you probably want to know what will happen to these prices. Will they remain flat? Will they go up? Or will they go down?
We can only speculate about this. In the inventory data, we saw that cars sold quicker and quicker during 2023, but that this trend came to an end in the beginning of 2024. Cars started to sell slightly slower. Sellers, though, didn't yet react to this development.
Based on this, I think that the downside price risk is slightly higher than the upward potential, meaning that I think it's more likely that we'll see slight price decreases compared to price increases. But again, all the talk about future prices is pure speculation.
Now finally, it's important to mention that all of this data applies to the US market. I started to incorporate the UK and German market in some other videos, and in the next Carrera market update, I'll include some preliminary numbers for the German market.
Now if you like this data-driven way of analyzing car prices, but would like to see a video for a different car, head over to my channel. Over there you'll find detailed market updates for a large variety of cars. Can't find the car you're looking for? Let me know the name of the car by commenting it down below in the comment section. Once there are enough requests for a certain car, I'll make a video about it. As always, thank you for watching and I hope to see you next week for a new video.